Microsoft is bringing back their All Access program for the Xbox One, and it might have also given us a hint about what their plans are for Project Scarlett. Now, if you're not familiar with what All Access is, this is a program that Microsoft has tested out in the past, usually leading up to the holiday season, like with right now, and it's basically a way that you can buy an Xbox and pay for it monthly instead of having to do one lump sum purchasing a system. And it's actually a little interesting how it works out, because in most cases, you even save a little bit of money. So the way this works is that you go to a participating retailer. In the case of the US, you would go to Amazon, and you set up a contract saying that you're going to pay however many monthly payments to get this Xbox. And the basic contract is that for over 2 years, you're going to spend $20 if you want to get a regular all-digital Xbox One S, $23 a month if you want to get an Xbox One S, or $31 a month for a One X. If these payments sound a little high to you, it's because that this isn't just covering getting the Xbox, but also covers having Xbox Game Pass Ultimate during those full 2 years. In the past when Microsoft has done this, they just separately offered regular Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Gold because those didn't actually have the Ultimate option yet. But with Ultimate now, you're getting both of those under one service, plus the ability to use Game Pass on PC. So it's actually a slightly better deal than it was in past years. So the way this all works out doing All Access compared to buying everything straight up is actually a little interesting, because for the One S All Digital, you're actually getting the biggest savings possible. For the regular One S, you're saving a little less money, but I still think it's the better way to go, so you have that physical disc support, unless you just really don't care about that. I mean, it's a difference of $3 a month. And then the One X actually barely saves you any money. It's just $14 cheaper doing All Access compared to buying it individually. And I think part of the reason for that is, first off, the One X is just a higher demand item, and also because I think in their own heads, Microsoft is basing this off of that $500 MSRP of the One X, instead of where you can find it for basically just $400 at most stores nowadays. So on its own, again, like what it was used in the past, I think All Access is a pretty cool deal if you want to save a little money picking up a new system because you've been waiting to get an Xbox, or at least break up the payments if you don't want to spend all that money at once. But what's additionally interesting about it this year is that a new part of the program is the option to upgrade to Xbox Project Scarlett next year after it releases. So the way this is meant to work is, say, right now you sign up for All Access and grab yourself an Xbox One X, or even one of the smaller models like the One S. Once the Project Scarlett is released next year with whatever actual real name it has, you're able to upgrade into getting that system. Now keep in mind, this doesn't mean that you're using that same 2-year agreement where, say, you got the One X, you've been paying $31 a month, and all of a sudden, hey, now you have a shiny Project Scarlett. It's not quite like that. It's kind of like if you had a leased car and you got rid of it early to get a new lease, where you basically end the contract you were currently under, get that Project Scarlett, and now it goes under its own new 2-year contract. An interesting specific subnote about this is that if you are doing it from the One S, you have to pay a fee to upgrade, whereas if you're using the One X, you just go into whatever the new contract is. And I think that's interesting because it gives us a slight idea of what Microsoft might be thinking pricing-wise for Scorpio. Keep doing it. Why do they have so many project games starting with SC?
Reboot initializing. Subscribe to restart video. Subscribe to be my friend. Or, you can be like Ben and not subscribe and just watch the rest of the video. Don't be like Ben. If you've already done it, great job. I love you.
Now keep in mind, Project Scarlett does say it's going to have its own pricing terms, so it's not necessarily going to be the same as One X, but I think this points in a general direction of how Microsoft wants to approach Scarlett, in that I don't think they're planning on making it super expensive. There have been a lot of different theories and things regarding the next systems from both PlayStation and Xbox, and we have some very basic info about both of them, but it's mostly been just broad tech specs like, yeah, they can support 4K 60, and they're gonna have SSDs, and they're cool new things. Awesome. We don't really have any actual hard details yet, though, and of course, one of the biggest things a lot of people worry about is pricing, because launch price can have a major impact on whether or not someone is willing to upgrade and change right away. With Microsoft willing to include Project Scarlett in this kind of layaway style program and only ask for an additional charge if you're upgrading from a regular One S, implies to me that they're aiming to actually price it in a similar zone to what the One X currently goes for, at least MSRP wise. So we might see Scarlett launch at $500. Is $600 still possible? Sure. Like I said, with this new program, if you do the contract, it's going to have new pricing, so it might be something that's higher. But the fact that it's included in all this really makes me think they're aiming for something that's a little more reasonable. And I realize that when we talk about the kind of tech that we're expecting to see in next-gen consoles, $600 isn't actually that insane, but remember, consoles are always sold at a loss because they're hoping to make money back on services like Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and any games and licensings that they end up getting through the system. The other interesting thing about this is that if Scarlett's being included in All Access, a year before it's even released, and All Access actually something Microsoft continues to do, that means that even if you don't go for it now and hope to have that upgrade option in the future, I think it's pretty likely that next year, for Project Scarlett's release, Microsoft is going to offer a similar plan, which is exactly what I hypothesized way back when All Access was first announced. Each of the major companies right now has their own distinct approach for how they want to handle the next generation of systems. I think PlayStation is still kind of playing the safe approach of, we just make our next bigger and better system, call it a day. Nintendo has been focused a lot on innovation, doing kind of slightly weird things like we saw with the Switch and more recently Switch Fit, or the Ring Fit. And Microsoft, I think, is really heavily focused on this idea of being less a traditional console and more Xbox the service. One of the biggest signs of this is, of course, their very heavy emphasis on services they've been building up over the past couple of years. They're one of the first companies to do a premium membership with Xbox Gold. More recently, they started doing Xbox Game Pass, and even more recently, or really in the near future, they've been focusing on the idea of Project xCloud, a service that allows you to play Xbox games on other devices and not necessarily requiring you to own an Xbox in the first place. And this all ties in, I think, into what they want to really make the main future of their systems being, that instead of the idea of you need to spend $500, $600 to buy a new system, instead it's just, hey, give us $30 a month, $35 a month, you'll get the system, you'll get the services, you'll get the ability to make use of all of these things as one little package that you're paying for over time, which I think is a really smart way to go. The service-style approach to media has become more and more popular with everything else. You see it for books, music, movies, television, and it hasn't fully happened to gaming yet. It's happened a little bit, and a lot of that has been pushed by Microsoft themselves with Xbox Game Pass. I mean, it's an interesting idea that by paying this one fee, you're getting a system, and with Game Pass, you're getting access to basically all of their biggest first-party games. I mean, Gears 5 came out on Game Pass immediately. Outer Worlds came out on Game Pass immediately. So if you really care about those Xbox games, they are usually coming out right away when they're a part of Game Pass, meaning that you're just paying that monthly fee and not actually paying attention to, oh, do I need to pick up this game for $60 when it comes out? No, I already have it as part of this membership. Now, I'll admit that for me personally, I'm a little old school and I also have a bit of that very heavy collector mentality where I would rather just buy out a system and buy individual games and kind of build up my library. But from just a regular consumer standpoint, it makes so much sense to have this option of just doing a monthly fee instead and getting sort of a catalog of greatest hits. And if there is a specific game you really want that's not on Game Pass or not going to be on it in the foreseeable future, you can still buy those individually if you like. When you look back in retrospect of how this generation's been going, obviously Microsoft has been having a bit of the roughest time out of all. I think they've made a lot of great strides over this last generation, but at the end of the day, when you look at raw sales, it just hasn't necessarily competed very well with PlayStation and Nintendo. And one of the main arguments for that is, of course, lack of unique first-party titles. But I think they're aware of this, and all of this is going into how they're trying to do their best possible move to get Project Scarlett off the ground with a strong start. Keep in mind that at last year's E3, Microsoft announced a lot of different studio acquisitions, and since then announced even more. And most of those studios haven't actually announced new games yet. I think the strategy Microsoft has been taking is, hey, we're gonna make the One X the best system we can. We wanna get people invested in all these services and products we have, like Xbox Game Pass, and try to get the highest amount of interest possible so that when Project Scarlett comes out, here is a bunch of big first-party games that we're announcing that you can only get on Xbox or on PC, and get access to them via Game Pass. I think Project Scarlett is still potentially going to be really cool, but I don't think that's what Microsoft's overall focus is anymore. I think the real thing is that Xbox is not any one console, it's a membership.